Hello, professional communication class. This is your fellow communicator, Bill Perkins. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about Chapter 5, Getting to Know Your Diverse Workplace, for our Module 5 discussion. I chose the first question to start, and since I'm not currently working, I'm just going to focus on the first part. Use the text and discuss the assimilation process. Be specific and use the language of the text. So if we read through pages 100 through 105, it's going to talk about assimilation and culture. Every nation, ethnic group, organization, company, school, even family has a culture. Anytime you group people together, they will form a culture. They do this through shared past experiences, solving problems that came from outside the group, learning how to get along within the group with other members, and by changing and adapting their behaviors, actions, rituals, and beliefs. They then teach new members how to be successful within the culture and what to think and feel through stories, song, dress, rituals, etc. That process is socialization. It starts when you're a child and goes throughout your entire life. Whenever you join a new culture, you begin this process of assimilation again and socialization to become part of it. You are taught formally and informally by other members of the culture how to be a part of the group. Therefore, assimilation is socialization. Taking on the culture of a group, trying to fit in, to learn how to be accepted as part of that group. The parts of any culture are its beliefs, its myths, stories, and spirituality, its practices, how it does things, its tone, is it aggressive or is it passive, its approach, is it open or closed, does it like new challenges and ideas, or is the culture more about maintaining the status quo, its attitudes and preferences, what does the culture like, what does it hate, and all of those things apply even to a culture at a business or company. Every company has its own culture, and in order to succeed in that company, you have to adapt and adopt the culture for yourself. Even in the beginning of the application process and the interview, in those first beginning steps, you start becoming socialized into a company's culture. Per the book, you are taught informally and formally the acceptable ways to think and behave. Formally through the company's code of conduct, telling you how to dress, what the hierarchy is, who's above who. There'll be formal procedures about how to communicate from one group to the next. You're going to be trained in all these procedures. How do they do things? How do they formalize things? You learn informally through how's the office is decorated. Do the employees have their own decor and their own workspace? Is it all open space or cubicles or offices? Company-sponsored events, charity, parties, picnics, dinners, etc. There's also the stories that are told about people that work there, people that used to work there, people that founded the company, and what are the attitudes and actions that are being praised in those stories. What rituals are observed? Birthdays, anniversaries, how are the employees praised? What behaviors get rewarded? Are there rewards? Page 102 specifically talks about assimilating in college students, but you can use these 6 factors to help yourself assimilate into a new job. Overt questioning. For instance, if you're trying to put a presentation together, you could ask the boss, what style and format do you want the presentation to be done in? Indirect questioning, a more polite way of asking by putting a question inside a statement, was you could ask the boss, I was wondering what style and format you would prefer for the presentation. Third-party questioning, ask somebody else. Do you know what style and format the boss likes? Testing limits. Do the presentation in the style and format you prefer and see what happens. Disguising conversation. Talk to people, say, I'm not sure that Sue's presentation had the right style and format. Or you could talk to the boss and say, I have such a hard time reading Helvetica. What font works best for you? And then, of course, surveillance. Watch what others are doing and mimic those actions and behaviors that get the best responses, the most positive response. As you learn and adopt a company's culture, don't forget to ask yourself, is this who I am? Is this who I want to be? It's too easy to get locked in and feel like you've already invested so much of your time and energy into that job, and that then you start to change your own beliefs and ideas in order to be assimilated and feel more comfortable. And if the culture makes you unhappy or unsure, leave. Find a place where you're happy to be assimilated. Next, I chose question 3. According to our authors, what strategies are necessary when adapting to gender differences in the workplace, and what are the conversational rituals followed by men and women in the workplace? This is addressed on page 110 in the book. The book says that you need to approach gender differences the same way you do with any form of diversity, with cultural competence, and says that men and women have different ways of knowing and communicating. Women are more likely to use a rapport style of communication, which means that they like communication that is meant to create friendships and social groupings and establish emotional connections. In other words, they share their thoughts and feelings and expect others to actively do the same, all while giving lots of positive feedback. They listen more and tend to problem solve as they are speaking. They are more concerned with everyone equally contributing to the conversation. Women also have a wider range of pitch and tonal variation compared to men, using 5 tones versus 3 tones. They also use tag endings, which is just questions at the end of statements in order to elicit a response. It was nice to see Bob and Jane again, wasn't it? Meaning, now tell me what you think about Bob and Jane. Women also tend to condense their bodies into a more compact space. They don't dominate the space. They use more animated facial expressions, smile more, and have more eye contact than men. Men use a report style of communication. They say what happened and do not give a lot of detail or emotional context. It's used to dominate the conversation and speak for longer periods of time. They expand more into the space around them and usually have a more relaxed body posture. They tend to talk in statements and commands. It was okay seeing them, but that steak was tough. Both statements that do not ask for comment or emotional clarification. The big thing to remember is don't fall for stereotypes based on how a man or a woman communicates, as that doesn't reflect their ability to do the job. A lot of what I got, most of it came from the book. I also went and found, let's see, what is her name here? Deborah Tannen's information, and read a lot of her articles, and she's quoted in the book. So that's where I got some of the other stuff from. I just want to say that you got to remember that these differences are caused by culture, not by nature, and that as more real scientific studies are done, we find that many of these cultural ideas about the difference between men and women are not true. It's been proven that men actually talk more than women, and that both genders engage in equal amounts of gossip. Men were once thought not to form deep emotional bonds with other men. Now we all talk about bromances and, how one man loves another. Modern scientific studies about how our brains work and how we process information show that men and women are virtually the same. The differences are so minor as to not really be relevant or noticeable, and that includes math and science. Our culture is changing, and the difference between men and women that were once fostered by that culture is changing and disappearing. Boys are being encouraged to be more expressive as children, to show feelings and to communicate those feelings. Men are taking on the role of the homemaker and providing more of an emotional stability to the family. Girls are being encouraged to be aggressive and dominant in sports and in education. Women are taking charge in the corporate and political sphere and showing decisive, take-charge leadership that at one time we thought only a man could do. We are far more alike than different. Like all intercultural communication, speak with respect. Try to understand each other, and if you are not sure what the other person is communicating, then use your professional skills like paraphrasing, summarization, reflection, and questions to get clarification. That's my discussion for Module 5. Have a good night.